Hi, I'm Ollie Hayes, and you're watching The Fan Carpets. It's day 2 of Frightfest, and tonight we'll be talking to the director of VHS, as well as of Rec 3 Genesis, the latest in Paco Plaza's Spanish zombie franchise, and finally Stitches, a horror comedy starring comedian Ross Noble as a psychopathic clown killer.
Yeah, my piece is kind of a throwback almost to beyond Blair Witch to the slasher movies of the 80s, like The Burning and Friday the 13th Part 6 in particular. Jason Lives, and I'm also a huge fan of a British horror flick called Tower of Evil. So I started having fun with the movies that I love and tried to see how I could kind of inject some of the humor, some of the situations into a more real-world kind of found footage scenario. I guess I submitted a few ideas to one of the producers, Roxanne Benjamin, and one of the ideas was just this crazy lost 1970s television show with weird children with ESP, and they were like, "Well, these are cool, but we really need a slasher segment. Have you got any ideas?" So from there, we just ran with it. And for me, when I heard slasher found footage, I worried that things could get too grim. I think the tendency could be to go for kind of snuff realism. But in my heart of hearts, I always wanted to keep some of the levity that I find in the earlier slasher movies and just see if I could blend the two worlds. And it wasn't until I saw the entire movie that it was a relief to realize everybody had pumped in enough fantasy, and it was more of a celebration of kind of entertainment and fantasy than realism. I don't know. I used to be wary of it, and I think what VH does is it manhandles the mandate somewhat in that it's not concerning itself too much on realism. When it lets loose, it lets loose. And again, it's more of a kind of a fantasy piece at the end of the day, and it's more of a celebration of just popcorn entertainment. It's very pop at the end of the day, and I think it's important that found footage realizes it's okay not to be snuff real, that it's okay to let loose and be pure entertainment, because I think people are going to hold on to their suspension of disbelief anyway, you know. And it's a format that rules need to be broken to be pushing forward on.
It was like a present, you know, like a Christmas present, and I was really, really happy, and I really wanted to give all my best, and I think I did.
Yeah, it's going to be very different, and I hope what they expect is just to have fun, you know, because I think it's that very often today we go to a theater, and it's like we go only to check if the film is exactly how we imagine, because we've seen 5-minute long trailers, opening scenes, all the information in the internet. It's very difficult to get virgin to a theater, and I love the idea of trying to preserve the mystery and unveiling the film pending the projection. So we try to put a lots of surprises in Rec 3, which is a very, very different film from what you expect.
He's great because he's brilliant, but he also loves working with actors and giving you the space to create, and that's very enriching.
Well, I think found footage has grown popular because many factors involved. First of all, because it's cheaper. Second, because I think we as audience, we are more used to that kind of language because we're all day watching YouTube videos. You know, it's like the way reality is filmed in the 21st century, and that sense of reality helps a lot when you come to horror, because what you want is people to feel what they're watching on screen is real. And so the way of filming it and the poor quality of the image, I think it helps a lot to increase the sense of reality.
And also, that's very dramatic. Yeah, and it's I think that's what makes the movie interesting, no? All the contrast, like the happiest day, the most terrifying day. You have to kill all the zombies are your family. I think that makes the movie more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a scary thing to do, because it's like I mean, it's something I've always done, like even since I was a kid. I've liked doing horror comedies, but what was different about this one was I was doing it on some kind of professional level. So like I'd be used to like throwing a bit of smoke, and you know that somehow comes across comical, but when you're doing it properly, it's somehow moody and atmospheric. So like for this, it was almost like just, I guess it was watching a lot of horror comedies and just trying to get, like, showing everything is usually a good trick. You know, it's like the less you see sometimes, the scarier it is. Like, so we just like showed everything. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm from Ireland, so I was just making. It's one of those things. Like, even like I haven't seen it with an audience. Sorry, I haven't seen it with an audience yet either. So it's still really hard for me to know how it works. Do you know what I mean? So I'm kind of excited to see it with a crowd and just get a feeling for it. Because like I've only ever seen it with 3 or 4 people. Do you know what I mean? So it's. You know, so. Yeah. I mean, what's good about visual gags is you can almost like plan ahead of time that it'll work. Like there's something like, you know, like say that cut from a zit to a negative. You kind of know in advance that'll probably work. You know what I mean? It's the ones with the actors and the performance are always a bit more up in the air. Do you know what I mean? Or you have to mold a bit. Whereas the visual ones you can kind of guarantee. You know what I mean? I was been a big fan of Ross. You know what I mean? And what we were looking for the part was somebody who could kind of combine the comedy, but with also the physical. And and it's probably that hair as well. Like I could instantly sort of imagine him as being a clown, you know. So and I mean I didn't know at the time, but he used to be a performer, like a clown performer himself, like a children's entertainer, and also a big massive horror fan. So it was, you know, it all worked out, you know.
So that's a wrap on day 2 of Frightfest. Stay tuned on the fan carpet to check out more of the action, where there'll be plenty more horror to come.